You will all remember around 2 months ago, George Floyd sadly passed away under horrific circumstances. And for many young people, this was their first encounter with such racial injustice and was the first time they had really witnessed and understood the deep roots of systematic racism. We saw the world completely come to a halt and we saw communities come together and unite as one. It seemed as though the world was finally beginning to recognise and listen to the voices that were fighting for change. It seemed as though the news was beginning to reach out and reshare the stories of those that were taking part in protest. But for me, it just felt like there was still one vital voice that was missing, and that was the voice of young people. So a couple of days after the death of George Floyd, I sat down with a group of young people from FBB to ask them the following questions. I wanted to know how they were feeling. I wanted to know what change they want to see. And I asked them how we could preserve this sense of community. How are you feeling?
One of the main things I'm feeling is upset, infuriated, and dumbfounded. I just think that's so wrong. It's like a basic fundamental human right is to live, to be able to live without prejudice as well.
I feel very disappointed in a lot of the government and in the police, because my brother used to want to be a policeman, and when he sees stuff that is out on the internet and out in the world, it's heartbreaking, because now he doesn't want to be a policeman anymore, and he's only 6 years old.
I'm feeling, just like Chanel, disappointed and angry at the police department because it's not individual racism, it's more structural. Because even the first time that this has happened, it's happened so many times. And now I think the death of George Floyd was like when the rubber band snapped and people just got so annoyed that they have to let their voices be heard.
I think for me, it's an essential conversation with my dad. We have that every single day. Every day, that's not even a cap. So my dad was involved in the Brixton riots, and he would tell me so much about that, and he would explain the anger and frustration that the black community were going through at the time, and he was basically sympathizing for the fact that they had the right to feel like that, which I can understand. We do have the right to feel angry, frustrated, and betrayed and let down by the police. And that's literally only because when we need help and we need the support, who do we actually go to if they're the ones that are killing us? The conversation is important to have in your household, because even from a young age, you have to know that this is what, it's not by choice. You're born with it. It's something that we're gonna have to deal with, regardless of it.
I think that how a child, how parents raise the children, that can really have an impact on how they grow up to be. And also I feel schools also have a major part in this, because we do history in school, and history meant to be history, but then really in most schools what I've realized is that when it comes to history, people the most thing we learn about is English history, how many wives did King Henry had and everything. And when it comes to slavery, they don't really touch much on that. We probably have 2 lessons on slavery.
Living in an area in Manchester where there's hardly anybody with the same colour skin as me, it's hard because going in primary school, now I finished primary school and I'm in high school, my brother's there by himself, and being in the area that we're in is not we're not going to see racism, and it's hard for him because he's there by himself in a class with 5 people who according to him look like him, and it's hard for us to be able to sit down and have that conversation with him because he's only 6.
I was going to say that a lot of the time, there's a lot of roads that lead to the same place sometimes. You can take a different route to get to the same conclusion. For a lot of people, when it comes to racism, it's a very individual experience. It's something that no one can really truly tell you how you should react, because it's something that affects each person in a very different way. There's so many different ways for us to create change. So it's everyone should treat it as their own, and we shouldn't be quick to judge someone if they're using violence, because for some people that's the only answer.
In school, we're taught that Malcolm and Martin Luther King were so separate in their views. But when you think about it, as MLK came to the end of his life, he started to consider violence the best way to go. Because we're going off what we're taught in school. And school is going to whitewash the history. They're going to make it so that we can conform and do the exams.
it shouldn't be as easy for such like terrible ideologies to get into organizations which are meant to protect society, like the police force. So I feel like they should enhance or improve the application process for people to become policemen, because if you think about how many times the police in America have been killing black people because of the color of their skins, it's crazy to think that loads and loads of policemen share the same racist ideology. And to add to that, I think racism is something that is taught and learned. So I think in schools we need to add more emphasis onto it as well. Because in the case of Shakuri Abdi, she was only 12 when she got pushed into a river by bullies her age. So it's crazy to think people as young as the age of 12 know how to be racist and what racist is, and they're seeing color as the color of skin as a separation. So I think like citizenship should teach that more, and history should teach more about Black history as well.
Actions speak louder than words, and if we're able to see it, then we know something's happened.
Another way is for people to build each other, because a lot of people they like to do their own thing. So when you build someone else up and you see the harmony in the community, because people help people. So when you see it, it's encouraging, and the government will see it eventually. It may not be right now, but they'll eventually see it, and they'll see the power in people.